John Kramer lectured in psychology at Queen's University Belfast for over 30 years and has played an active role in applied sport and exercise psychology throughout that time. John has worked with national and international teams and athletes from over 50 sports and continues to publish widely, including his most recent best-selling book, Pure Sport.
As we continue to look at the techniques that can be used to develop your mental strength, we naturally come to an area that has long preoccupied sports people and sports psychologists alike. That is imagery and mental practice. The first thing to say about imagery is that it's probably a lot more than you ever thought it was, and certainly more than just pictures in your head. Our powers of imagination and reconstruction are extraordinary, and there's now a lot of evidence to suggest that when we imagine, we do more than simply bring pictures to mind. In fact, probably the best way to think of imagery is that it's the equivalent of perception and everything that involves, but without the sensation itself. In our heads we can control, distort images in lots of ways, involving not only sight, but all the other senses as well, including hearing, smelling and touching. And athletes have long recognised that positive imagery can be a very effective way of improving their performance. The difficulty is that when we use imagery naturally, we will often bring to mind not the positives, but negatives or the what-ifs of things going wrong or when we are out of control. And rather than helping us, what this often will do is hurt us, as it can so easily raise anxiety. The first and the golden rule with imagery is to use it in a planned and positive way to improve your performance. For example, it may help you to manage pain, to deal with pressure, to familiarise yourself with parts of the route, or to practice techniques in your head to keep a rhythm or a pace to your running. In combination, all of these techniques are likely to help if you use them at the right time and the right place. But if you choose to use your imagination to hurt you and not help you, then the consequences can be disastrous. To show how strong our powers of imagery can be, imagine yourself running down a road with which you are already very familiar. As you run, take in the sights, sounds, even smells all around you. Hear your feet bouncing off the ground, hear the rhythm of your breathing, and feel comfortable. Now I'd ask you to try something quite different. Switch from imagining being there to seeing yourself being there. In other words, you're now watching yourself in that place from an external perspective. To some this task will be easy. To others you may struggle to visualise from this external perspective, and especially when you've never actually seen yourself run before. To remedy this, the solution is simple. Ask someone to film you running, maybe on their mobile phone, so that you're able to build a picture of what you actually look like running down the road. Evidence shows that if you want to improve your technique, then using a combination of internal and external imagery can be most helpful. To show what I mean, try this simple routine. First of all, bring back to mind the internal image of you running down the road. Now switch to the external and try seeing yourself running down the road. The third step is now to imagine watching someone else whose running style you particularly admire, and try to spot one aspect of their technique that distinguishes how they do it from how you do it. The next step is to see yourself incorporating that one change into your own running style, before finally imagining yourself running, but now building that one new aspect of technique into your running. Research shows that this process can speed the learning considerably, and especially when used in combination with actual practice. Please don't try this too close to race day, as by then your style and technique should be well established. But in the early days of training, to improve your style or technique, it may be worth a go. Closer to the marathon itself, you may find it helpful to mentally practice parts of the course, so when the day finally arrives, those parts are familiar to you. And what's more, you may have built mental strategies to deal with the challenges that certain sections may pose. You might want to include buzzwords along with that mental practice, words like glide, flow, drive, push, stride, all are there to remind you what sort of style will see you through that particular section. The trick with mental practice is never do too much. Short, sharp, specific practice of events or parts of the route is likely to be that much more effective, but don't overdo it. One common finding is that inexperienced distance runners often don't have the capacity to use imagery to block unpleasant thoughts. Those with more experience can bring to mind images that often make them feel more comfortable and make them perform better. For example, one danger of the inexperienced may be to use images of the future, and in particular, crossing the finish line. Try to avoid these, as they're likely to take you away from the present and the here and now. Instead, have a repertoire of positive images that you can use to deal with where you are now, not necessarily where you will be in a few hours' time. The contrast between the two can often make you feel a whole lot worse rather than better. One example where you may choose to use a different image, say of running alone, is in the early stage of the race, where the hustle and bustle can sometimes lead you to a pace that is not sensible and is certainly not sustainable. Maybe use your head to take you somewhere else for a while. Above all else, remember this simple golden rule. You use imagery to help you and not to hurt you. There are times when you need to be present and alert, but there may be other times when you can use your head to take you somewhere else. Maybe when things are getting tough. But do recognise that the mental images you bring naturally to mind can often make the challenges along the way seem bigger than they should be. Rather, reframe them as interesting challenges that you can look forward to not only meeting, but getting over.